All right, tuning in to the Voltaic Podcast. We have such a treat on the episode here today. We have the Solarpreneur himself. Yes, it is Taylor Armstrong, bro. Yeah. Welcome to Voltaic Podcast, man. What's up?
I'm stoked to be here, bro. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, of course, man. We just got done jamming on your podcast. Thought, you know what? Why don't we kill two birds on one stone?
Yeah.
Get you on the Voltaic Podcast and just drop some nuggets for us because, you know, we get to hear you interview people. You know, I know a lot of the guys, they listen to your podcast like religiously.
Yeah.
They love it. I'm a big fan personally, so blessed and humbled to have been able to be on it, man. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we wanted to hear like the man behind the questions, dude. You know what I mean? We want to know more about Taylor Armstrong, bro. Golden Door winner, like throwing down such heavy accounts, obviously has like in my opinion, the podcast in our industry.
Thank you.
So Taylor, man, why don't you kind of start by giving us a little bit about your background, like how did you get into solar and man, like kind of what brought you to here to where you're at today now.
Let's do it. Well, first of all, maybe we should have done this podcast first because after the straight gold you just dropped, I feel like I'm going to be, maybe sound like a little bit of an idiot. but no, try to add value while I can. And, it's not as often that I'm on this side of the mic. So, but we'll make something happen. Mm-hmm. But as far as my background, I got into it in 2016, not quite as you were, 2014 or something?
Mm-hmm. 2014.
Okay, so we're like the grandpas of the industry. You're probably like 90 in solar years. I'm like 80, so it's a lot of time. But so back then, started with a company called New Power. And the story was, I'm sure guys that listen to my podcast have heard this a million times, so I apologize if this is on repeat, but I came from pest control, and I had my buddy that was out here doing solar. I tried to recruit him to pest, and he's like, "No, bro, I'm gonna go try solar." He goes out and does solar, ends up making like double or triple the money I made. And then of course, anyone that's done pest, you know that you're out working like 10 hours a day, just grinding on the doors. I was in Texas, North Carolina, where it's just hot and humid, we're sweating all day long. And then I asked my buddy, he's out here, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're just knocking. It's like, I don't know, 70 to 80 degree weather. And we usually knock like 4 or 5 hours a day. It's chill." And then he tells me he made like 30 grand for the summer, which at the time in solar, that was, pretty good money. And, pest control, I made like 10 or 15 grand. So I'm like, okay, you convinced me. I'm going to give this a shot. And just, loved it. Loved the lifestyle it gave me. And we talked a little bit before on the podcast we just did before this, but the only thing I wish is that I maybe could have stepped in with a company that has like some of the cultures now. Like, for example, you've set up with your Blitz models and all that, because that's the only thing I know I could have done even way better than I did, just going into a little bit better environment. Because I was taught at the time, like, oh, you can just go out maybe 3-4 hours a day, call it good, just hang out in the mornings. Where if I would have maximized my time, and especially because I only thought I was doing it for a summer, so I wish I would have treated it just like pest control and went out and grinded, because it probably would have made triple the money. But still, even the time I did put in, I still was making better money than pest control and everything. And then got married after that summer. Wife came out, and then we almost went home like 2 or 3 times, but just every time we thought about going back to college, going back to school, I would see like an increase in my numbers and then get like this, $10,000-$15,000 check. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's stay a little bit longer. Just feel like that. And then eventually, I'm just going to stay out here and, just love the, California. I'm down in San Diego, so love the market and just love the lifestyle, and money's awesome. So
gotta love it, man. Yeah. SD, living the life. Yeah. That's what it's all about. That's why we're all doing this. I mean, the solar opportunity, it's like absolutely insane. It's once in a lifetime. But I'm really interested to know, like, what inspired you to, start this Solarpreneur podcast. You've had absolute legends on your podcast, and it's just given so much free game and value to the industry. And like, I think I look at you as a pioneer for sure of our industry and bringing that value to our space, because I know how much it's helped me and so many others. Yeah. So what inspires you to do that, man? And like kind of tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, great question. Another thing I've talked about here and there in the podcast, but originally it just started is because I wanted to get surrounded by other top guys. Because like I just kind of mentioned, my company, we weren't necessarily like the best. We don't have guys doing crazy numbers or anything. So I'm like, how can I recreate this and get surrounded by guys that are doing huge numbers at bigger companies? Because I would go to them sometimes and, I'd try to connect with others. And back then, I don't know if this was your experience, but sometimes you'd go to people at other companies and they just like close you off, be like, oh, bro, we're not talking to you. You're not part of our company. We're not going to share our company secrets. And there's a lot more kind of scarcity mindsets where people didn't want to talk to you if you weren't part of their organization. And so I'm like, what can I do? How can I like get in front of these people? And no one wants to. I mean, I'm going to buy them lunch. They don't want to go to lunch with me. Like, why would they not want to go to lunch with me? There's free food. Right. I would go anywhere. There's free food. And so what I did, I'm just like, I love podcasts. I always had the idea. And even to this day, I was telling you guys, we're sitting here in a studio, got cameras surrounding us. But to this day, my podcast is literally just, like a $70 mic bought off Amazon. And at first I was just recording on my phone, because that's the thing. People go and start something, but what holds us back over and over and over is we think it has to be perfect. We think we have to be the best. And so we don't start it. Right. And so I had this idea sitting on the podcast for like a year, but I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't know what equipment I have to buy. I don't know what questions to ask in interviews. And finally, I had a friend that he started a podcast just like from his phone. And I'm like, are you serious? You have to get like a mic. You have to have like a studio, all this stuff. He's like, no, I just did it from my phone and I just record. There's this app called Anchor. You just press a button, record it. I'm like, oh, that's it? That's all you need to do? And so I saw him start it and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this. So that's how it started. And it's starting to get a little bit better in quality now. Still not definitely to this level where we're sitting in studios with probably like, I don't know, 10, 20,000 worth of equipment around us now, but it's, that's just how it started and kept it rolling. And how it is, consistency creates the results. So just started getting consistent with it and love the feeling of just picking the brain. Because even if I wasn't getting lots of listeners, the first year I knew I was just being surrounded by people that were leveling up my game. So the amount of improvement I made just by having the podcast and having an excuse to listen to, people like yourselves and pick their brains. Yeah, it's been incredible. So
love it, man. Story. And let's talk about that, man. The leveling up, man. I mean, you're a guy that's won a golden door, right, in our industry, like, which is obviously, an incredible accomplishment. So like, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you how you got to the point where you were able to start accomplishing, that type of performance. What were like the obstacles that you faced on the way to that journey, and how ultimately did you accomplish something like that?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the biggest things, and we talked about it on your podcast too, is just the mindset around it. Like for me, I didn't come out of the gates running like yourself. I was never like the best. I got to the point where I was like top 3 in my company. But for so long, I just had the mindset of, I'm never going to be like a top rep. I can be like solid, but never do it. And what changed that finally, and what I think was kind of like the gateway to me starting to produce way higher numbers and eventually get the golden door, was we had this bigger competition. It's called an Ironman at our company. And I just was, I guess, kind of sick of being like just a mediocre rep, just kind of average, because I was always like good enough where I would stay out there, right? But I didn't have like a breakthrough. Like at the time, my parents were pretty mad. They were like, Taylor, you need to go back to college. What are you doing out here? It's not a career. You're just messing around out there trying to sell solar panels. And that was kind of affecting me. I'm like, okay, well, I'm making okay money. I haven't done anything breakthrough. I'm just kind of an average rep. I just need to like show my brain that I can do something big, that I could like be a top rep. Mm-hmm. And then if I'm not, then I know maybe I'll just go back to school. But if I can't have this breakthrough, then I know that I can, achieve some pretty incredible stuff, maybe even stay out here longer and run teams, whatever. And so I just decided before this competition that I was just going to go all in. It was kind of a blitz mindset, like we talked about on your podcast. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I hired a coach. I hired an accountability partner. And then we use this app. It was called, I'm drawing a blank here, but it's an app where you go and you Oh, it's called Stick, STIKK, I think it is. So guys can go download that. But what it is, you put money on the line, and then you have an accountability partner on there. I don't know if you've seen this. And then if you don't do what you said you're going to do, then that money, it goes to like a donation to like a charity you hate. So I don't know, if you hate abortion or something, then it's going to go to a charity that supports abortion, or like stuff like that, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, if you hate Hitler, then it's going to go to, probably not that extreme, but it's like a charity that you don't like. And so, yeah, I got all extreme with that. And then, you know, if I didn't hit my hours, I'm like, all right, I need to be on the doors 6 hours minimum a day. I need to talk to X amount of people. And I just went and did that. And sure enough, just by sticking to that, having an accountability partner, having the coach, I went and got, you know, took first in the competition, you know, got like the company truck for a year, got the trip to Hawaii and all that. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can be the best. And so just kind of gave my, I guess, brain evidence that if we really stick to something, if we really like try to have that belief, and really just, you know, create the affirmations around it, and then we can go and prove it to ourselves, then that's, I think, our biggest like competition. It's just the man behind the mirror, right? And so especially for a guy like me, I didn't have a ton of confidence. I didn't have that evidence yet that I could be the best. That's what changed for me, just getting a coach and kind of going through all that.
That's incredible. So you built self-efficacy. I have trouble saying that all the time, right? And which is basically our belief in ourselves to be able to accomplish something, right? And you talked about how you invested in yourself, right? You spent money in yourself, and I always tell people the best investment they can make is in themselves, right? And so, like, I can't stress enough how important that is in the willingness to be able to invest in your skill set and your knowledge base. Like, was that the first time like you actually invested in yourself, or like what made you like decide, all right, like I'm just gonna, because I heard two really key things: invest in yourself, coaching, and number two is that you invested in accountability, right? And so like what would you recommend to somebody starting out or someone looking to take it to the next level? Like what steps do they need to take to get into a place where they're willing to invest in themselves and like, have higher levels of accountability to kind of be able to reach higher numbers?
Yeah. Well, I would say especially it's even more so important if you're at an organization where there's not a ton of high producers, because like, you know, for you guys, you got some guys producing crazy numbers. So in that environment, maybe you can go and reach out and have some accountability partners like that. But the reason why I think it's so powerful to invest in yourself, because people that pay attention, right? And so if you put money on the line, you're going to take it that much more seriously, where if you're just going to someone for advice and not super serious about it, I mean, you can do whatever. But if you're putting on a little amount of money that will like hurt if you just waste it, like for me, I always take it way more serious if I actually have money on the line, if I'm actually doing something as that. And it's like, if you think about it, any investment, right? If you go invest in like a rental property or I don't know, stock portfolio, crypto, whatever, you're going to get returns. But think about with solar, if we can invest in ourselves and get even one extra deal a month, for most people, that's like, $5,000-6,000, And so I don't know any investment that's better than that. If you can go and invest in a coach, an extra training that gets you an extra, even one deal a month, it's like incredible money. So guys just got to think about that. And I think sometimes we forget like how crazy the money is in solar and how good we have it, that if you can just go get one extra deal a month, whatever training, whatever thing that is, coach, mentoring, whatever, Knockstar, then it's going to be huge. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that's such good stuff, dude. I mean, incredible. Never look at it like that, right? Like, yeah, great. Putting money into, a real estate property, that's amazing. But we're in a vehicle in solar where if you just invest in your ability to sell more, like you're, if you have 2-3 more deals a month on average that you're self-genning, like you're just like kind of taking your game to a whole new level. Such gold, man. So who would you say have been like some of your biggest influences and mentors in this space? Like how have you, like obviously you get to surround yourself with such high level dudes that, you know, hit at such high levels. Like who do you look to get to the next level? Who have you looked up to get to the next level, right? Like, I'm always interested in that.
Yeah. The first person I would say is just, you know, this is probably cliche, but Grant Cardone, you know, I just listened to his book called Closer Survival Guide, probably in repeat. That's the only book I had for like a year. I probably listened to that, I don't know, 25 times or something, just on repeat over and over and over. So that was a huge influence. And it's funny because most of the closes in there, like, I feel like aren't even that great for solar. It's like kind of like twisting people's arms and like, just, you don't want to go solar. Well, hey, just do it anyways. Let's do this. And a lot of his closes are just kind of like strong arming people, things like that. But more than anything, and just, I think just the mindset around the mistakes people make as far as like having belief in the product, just knowing when to push past objections, just treating every objection as a complaint, things like that. And the whole first section of that, I think that really up-leveled my closing for sure. So he was a big mentor. And then, you know, the stuff that Danny Pesci, Taylor McCarthy doing with Knockstar, I definitely saw some great results, as you can probably say too, just competition and things you learn from guys like that. But yeah, I would say just anyone that has like a high producer in their office, in their company, it's really, I mean, if guys are getting results, then just follow their path, right? Because what they're doing, it's probably going to work for you. So one of the best things that helped me too, starting out, is I just went to the top guys in my company. I said, hey, can you record just one of your closes? Or can I come with you, shadow you, and I'll just record it? And I would just go, I'd record their deals, what was working for them. And then just at the gym, I would just listen to that on repeat over and over and over and just do what's already working. Because guys try to reinvent the wheel. You probably see this too, is some guys will be new and it's like, oh, you know, I don't think this presentation is working that great. I'm going to add this. It's like, no, especially if you haven't gotten that great of results yet, then you shouldn't be going out and trying to forge your own path. Just record what's working for someone else and just copy that. And it's great now because we have all these resources like the Knockstar and, you know, guys like you on Instagram. You can go on YouTube, you got Solarpreneur Podcast, all these things that weren't available when me and you started. Like now we have all this stuff for free. So really no excuses for guys. Just go out and do what's working for.
Game is given to us so freely. Like it's so accessible. The tools and the skill set and the ability to just go out there and perform at a high level if you're just willing to, you know, just get connected in those platforms. Like there's no reason why you can't just absolutely slay this space, man. So who do you like, so speaking to a new rep, right? Like say like you're brand new, never knocked doors before, right? Like what is the perfect formula for that person to become successful? What are the action steps they need to take? What, in your opinion, is the type of atmosphere that they need to walk into, right? Like break that down. Like what produces a successful sales rep?
Yeah. I think we talked a lot about this in, your podcast. So depending on when they're released, you can go listen to that too. But I think for me is just a lot of what we already said here, just shadowing someone that's already successful, getting their recordings. Like, I don't know, we keep saying this, but back when me and you started, we feel like we're like 100 years old right now. Oh, back in my day, that's how it was, because it's true. We didn't have that I know of, there are hardly any resources like that. And so guys today, I don't think there's any excuse why you can't be successful. It's because there's so many things for free you can go to, so many better cultures that are, that people are creating back, compared to back when I started. And just, I would say, like something we talked about in your podcast, is just going all out, just, full effort, max effort, doing a blitz or something. Because guys now that start at my company, we try to kind of recreate that too. But I think even better is what you do at your company, Nick, is just send them straight out on a blitz if you can, and just getting a taste of going full effort, max effort for the next 15 days or whatever. Because then you're going to see success, even if you suck. I mean, how many presentations do you have to do to find someone that'll, listen to you about solar? And it's just really about getting those numbers in. So I'd say that's the most important. Just track your numbers, figure out that ratio, right? So that's a key for new reps too, is just figure out how many conversations you need to have to get that one appointment, break it down to a science, and then just put in as many hours as possible. and then find a mentor, just get someone's recording, just do exactly what they're doing, put in the hours. And then I don't think there's anyone that's not going to have success. And then just try to get to those first couple of deals. Because once you see that money coming in, I mean, it's from there you're rolling.
Game over, you're hooked.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
You're hooked.
And then get a coach too. That always helps.
Yeah. So what do you recommend to like the solar sales rep that, you know, is kind of at I want to say a plateau, right? Like they're consistently able to do, you know, 5, 6 deals, 4 deals a month, but they're having trouble kind of taking it to that next level, right? Like, have you ever been in that place where you've kind of been there and then you've taken it to the next level? What steps do you recommend a rep take if they're kind of just at a plateau, right? Like how do they get to that next level in your opinion?
Yeah, I love that. I think something that was great for me is just, for me, I got in this like cycle where I thought I was actually working a ton, but then when it came down to it, there's so much time wasted. And so an exercise that I put my reps through occasionally is to do a time study. And what that is just breaking down of what you're actually doing in a day. Because like, yeah, I've been through plateaus like that where I only hit 4 or 5 deals on the month. I'm like, what's going on here? And what it usually came down to is the times I thought I was working, the times I thought I was super focused. I was really like distracted on my phone. I was checking Instagram. I was, you know, playing stupid games. I was like relaxing in my car and I thought, oh, I'm just taking a quick break here. In my head, I thought that break was like a 10-minute break. But then when I did this time study, broke it down, I'm like, oh shoot, I was on Instagram for literally 30 minutes here, just chilling in my car when I should have been out knocking, things like that. So that's, I think, the number one thing to do. Just figure out what is your time actually being used on. And so what I have my reps do is just get a calendar or, I don't know, sheet of paper, anything. And then for 2 days, 2-3 days, even better, just write down every 15 minutes what you actually did in that space of time. And you'll start to see, you're going to get honest with yourself. You're going to start to see exactly what you did. And you're going to see all the time that's wasted. And then from there, you know, okay, wow, I was at lunch like 45 minutes longer than I thought I was. I sat on the toilet. I thought I was only taking a dump for 5 minutes here. I was on the toilet on my phone for like 30 minutes. I mean, that happened to me too. So all these little things, just there's so much time wasted. And so I think that's good just to really analyze, because if you don't have stuff that you can measure, stuff that you can like see what was happening, then it's tough to make improvements, just like on the doors, right? If you're not tracking, measuring, adjusting to what actually happened, if you don't know that you were doing that thing, then you can't take steps to improve it. So I'd say that's the first step, is just figure out what you're actually doing throughout the day. And then it's going to be easier to make adjustments and then, make improvements to that. And then second step, I think that helped me, and we can talk about more if you want, is just figuring out little things you can outsource. So maybe you just spent 30 minutes worrying about customer documents. What if you could have someone else, like an assistant, or I don't know, maybe someone else in your office can already do those things. Right. And then figuring out things like that you can actually outsource and send to other people. I think it's another secret.
Love that. That's just gold, man. It's basically like taking an honest inventory of yourself, right? Like just looking at the mirror first and saying like, am I really doing all that I think I'm doing? Right. Yeah. Like, and, typically the answer is right there in the mirror, in my experience. So for sure. Good stuff. Now, what about the rep that like is in a rut, right? Doing everything they can. They're doing, inventories. They're doing, they're looking at trainings. They're like doing what they feel they think they can to get results, but they can't. Like I think so many times people quit, right? Yeah. Because they can't get through that period. Like, what would you say to that rep? Like, how can they get through that and keep on pushing through to eventually kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, good question. I think for that, I mean, if you're honestly doing all these things, if you're doing time study, you're using your time, you're like hitting the numbers, having the conversations that you need to, and for some reason you're just in a slump. The other thing is just recording yourself, and then you'd be surprised a lot of times it goes back to just analyzing yourself. Maybe you're saying something that's different on the doors or in your presentations. I think that's another secret, is trying to record yourself. But I don't know, if someone's doing all those things and they're still going through a slump or not hitting the numbers they expected, then I don't know. For me, I would just say this probably comes back to something in the mindset, right?
100%.
Maybe something changed. Maybe you're having a dip in confidence. Maybe you're saying the exact same thing you always said, but for some reason, since you've been in a slump, your brain is convinced now that you're in a slump, right? Your brain is like subconsciously saying it less confident or something is off with that. So I don't know. I think with that, it just comes back to you got to start doing some affirmations. You got to start. I think that's huge on the doors. I'm sure you teach your reps this too, but just getting, running out, hitting that first door, just doing like Tony Robbins talks about, doing the state of mind changes and all that. Affirmations. I'm the greatest salesman in the world. The Brian Tracy. I like myself and I love my job. Just getting yourself fired up like that, because I think so many times we want to learn the next closing line. We want to learn the next one-liner. But, so much, it's like 80%, I would say, is probably the mindset of it, what you're doing up here, up in your head versus what you're actually saying. So I think that's the next thing I would say. If someone's in a slump, just take a look at your mindset and figure out ways you can just improve just kind of your subconscious and through affirmations and things like that.
No, that's good stuff, man. Basically like paralysis by analysis reps get into, because they're just like, it's a snowball effect. Just like, oh man, I'm in this hole. I have financial insecurities. It's like, and then, you're kind of operating out of desperation, right? But ultimately it's just a battle in between the ears, you know? And so love that, man. So, kind of switching gears and kind of a couple more questions here as we wrap up. What do you feel like was some of the most valuable content that you've used and applied out in your own game that you've gotten from people on your podcast? Like a couple things, a couple highlights that you feel, and recommendations that you have for people that haven't tapped into your podcast or seen it. Which ones do you recommend for people to go tap into?
Yeah, well, the best one was with the man right here in front of us, Nick Finger.
Right.
That's gonna be good. This podcast will probably actually come out before yours drops on my show, but when it does come out, definitely check that out, because it's awesome stuff. But no, so that was good. And then we had right now Taylor McCarthy is probably our most downloaded one. Hopefully until yours hits, we hopefully surpass that one. But there's been so many episodes, and I get this question a lot. So we actually put together like the top 10, a little guide that has kind of the top 10, just kind of most valuable, most popular episodes. So if guys want that, they can hit me up on Instagram. We can definitely get them a copy of that. But I think just takeaways I've had is, it's just little things. Sometimes guys try to focus on so many things at once that we end up not improving anything. It's like if you go out and try and tweak your presentation, if you try to do 10 different things at once, you're probably not going to do any of them, or you're going to do all of them just at a really low level. So it's just picking one little thing. Maybe it's one line you heard, one little tweak on the close, and you try to just focus on that one thing. And so, for example, for me, what I've been, Taylor McCarthy's podcast, he's got a ton of great content, one-liners on that. But the one thing I took away from that is I just started using his little T-chart closing, to where you're just putting like an apples comparison with the customer. This is what you're paying with the utility. This is how much you pay with solar. This is how much you pay over 10 years with the utility. This is how much you pay with solar. This is how much value adds to your home with the utility, which is 0. This is how much adds with the solar. So, just one thing like that. And so there's been so many things, and I'd have to, go and I need to go back to and like break down, because sometimes I'll do podcasts and then you get back and you're like, what did we even talk about? So I'm guilty of that for sure, where I need to like listen to my own podcast and get more out of my guests. But I think it's just getting one thing. So that's a great takeaway I've got. Another takeaway I talked a little bit about is we have a lot of marketing guys on the Solarpreneur podcast as well. And I mentioned that before, but just figuring out ways to outsource little things you do. And so right now I pay a virtual assistant $300 a month. Just from the Philippines, and she does so much. She edits podcasts, she sends customer gifts, she sometimes follows up with customers, she sometimes handles documents from the installers, trying to implement things like that. And that's another little like key takeaway, where all this low level stuff, I can just pay someone, money to do it. Same thing with like cleaning your house, doing your laundry. Like we've got a guy at my current company right now, he just hits, he had like a 15 deal week, which is insane. And I asked him what he did last week, and he didn't do any, all he did was like show up to deals and close. He didn't cook his own food. He didn't like do his laundry. He has stuff doing this for everybody. So I think especially if you want to hit high numbers, figuring out what you can outsource, that's another, I think, takeaway I've gotten, just learning from like marketing guys too, is figuring out what you can outsource and what you can offload to someone else, so you can focus 100% on your money making activities, which for us is closing deals, right? So
love that. So last couple questions here. So what's next for you? Where do you see your career going? Is it going all in on podcasts? Is it like growing, scaling a team, or is it starting your own? Company? Where's the vision for Taylor Armstrong?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this and definitely need to get more and more clear. But with solar right now, it's just like the money is so crazy with solar. So I don't know why people would focus on stuff other than just closing deals, and just because the money's crazy. And we're all hearing this stuff could change. Maybe commissions get more regulated, maybe it goes down. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm just gonna go all out as much as I can and just try and get the close and build the team. So the podcast is great. It's a focus of mine, and I started it because I'm getting a ton of value from the guests I'm having on. But I mean, to be honest, it's not like it's a huge money. Like, it's never going to make as much as what you can make just going out and closing deals.
Right.
So for me, it's a side project, but maybe as solar becomes more regulated or tax credits go away, maybe we're not making much. And then I have the podcast where I can also leverage that to, get more into coaching. I'm doing a little bit of coaching with it. I got some little training platform along with it, but that's not necessarily the focus, just because I know, how good the numbers are with solar. So that's what I'd say to anyone. Hopefully anyone listening to this, you just go all in, double down on closing your deals, building your teams. And even with that, sometimes it's hard to focus on building a team, just because commissions on your personal deals, it's like so crazy.
It really is.
I think sometimes guys focus too much on doing stuff other than closing the deals, because they think, if I spend all this time that I would have been out knocking doors or closing, then maybe I'll recruit a whole team and I won't ever have to knock, or I'll just make overheads off everyone.
Right.
But I mean, for example, at our company, the guy, he'll probably do 2-3 million this year just off of closing deals. It's not really, he gets some overrides, but I think that's where the money is out. And Mike O'Donnell talks about this all the time too. He's a company owner, but he's not made. I mean, the money is made in the closing deals. That's why he's out knocking the doors himself, right? And same as you, you're a company owner, but you're out knocking doors and closing tons of deals yourself. So
cannot justify not doing it.
I know. Yeah. So that's my goal, is just keep doing that. And of course I want to build the team. Of course I want to continue to grow the podcast, but I just want to focus, at least for right now, as long as I can, on just getting those deals in the pipeline and going out there and make it happen.
Love it, dude. Love it. So much gold there, bro. So much gold. Last question for you is, what do you want your legacy to be?
That's a deep one, man. Maybe I should have prepared for that. I think my legacy that I want to be when I'm sitting at my funeral, I guess I'd be laying at my funeral dead, right? Not sitting. But I would say I just want to be known as someone that's always wanting to improve, always better, because my whole life, I don't think I've been known as, I feel like I've been like an underdog. I was never the best at anything, but what I was willing to do is constantly trying to improve, just get that next pro. And I'm the type of guy that if I go out and try a new sport or something and I suck at it and lose, I'll go search online training program to get better at bowling, because I'm pissed I lost, so I just want to go digest it. And sometimes I don't have the highest work ethic, which I need to improve on that, but I do know I'm gonna go and do everything I can to try and improve. I'm gonna go out and watch the next course, go and buy a bunch of books on it, try and get better.
Right.
I just started taking these jiu-jitsu classes right now, and just one of my buddies got me into it, and I I don't know, sometimes I take it overboard, but I get sick of losing. So I already have gone and bought these video courses on how to get better at jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So I don't know, I guess I want to be known as that, as just someone that was always willing to improve, someone that always wanted to take the next step, that wasn't just, okay with being mediocre, but just someone that had that improvement mindset. And hopefully I pass that on to other people. That's the goal of the podcast, is just always be learning. Because it's crazy, after 6 years doing this, there's always something new we can learn. And I know you talked about it too, how us being in Knockstar in some of these groups, I feel like I'm, starting fresh almost. I'm learning new things every day. And that's what makes this exciting for me too, is as we're always learning, it just makes us realize how much we don't know.
Yeah.
You hear that from like people that are doctors too. They graduate medical school and they try to start being a doctor, and like, wow, I thought I was like a genius, but I realize I know like nothing now. So like that's how it is with solar too. Just always wanting to learn and always improve. 100%. So I think that's what I want my legacy to be.
That's amazing, man. Such good stuff, dude. Taylor, man, so blessed and humbled to have had you on the podcast, dude. You dropped some major bars for the team and for everyone else that listens. So how do people kind of get in contact with you, man, if they want to follow your journey? I mean, everyone already knows who you are, so, but like for those who don't know that might happen to listen to this.
Hopefully we're not marketing enough if you don't know the podcast, if you're in solar. But yeah, then you can reach out. Instagram is at Taylor J. Armstrong. We started a Instagram page for the podcast too. It's just a Solarpreneur Podcast on there. So of course, hit me up on there, on Facebook. And then obviously the podcast, we've got a ton of stuff going on with that, and guys got some free giveaways and free content, free guides and things like that. I mentioned there's a top 10 like of the episodes, so guys can go grab that. But yeah, hit me up, and can't wait to see what you do next, Nick. And appreciate all the value added, but it's a pleasure being on the show.
Thanks, dude. All right, till next time.
Okay, let's go.
Cheers.